It's baffled scholars for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle made of multi-dimensional elements, an enigma with roots that reach back to the dawning of time, perhaps before. Daniel explained part of it. Ezekiel and Isaiah had glimpses into it. John saw it all for the time of the end. That time is now. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert on a journey that spans the course of history, from Eden to Mount Hermon, from Hermon to Babel, from Babel to Rome, from Rome to the cross, and from there to us. Biblical prophecy is coming true before your eyes, and to understand it, you must discern the times both then and now. It's time to unravel the threads of this all-encompassing prophetic paradox. It's time to unravel Revelation.
Welcome to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we're delighted you've chosen to join us once again here in the barn.
Thank you for making this a reality. This was a storage building that just came with the property, and we've been able to convert this into usable space thanks to your generosity. We truly, truly appreciate your support.
Oh, absolutely. We are so grateful for every one of you for your prayers, for your financial support, for those of you who download the app.
Absolutely. Please take a moment and do that if you haven't yet. It's available for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire phones and tablets. We've also got Roku and Apple TV versions if you just want to put it directly on your big screen. But the app has some additional features that are really powerful. It's got a Bible module with multiple translations, audio Bible even. But
listen to the Bible while you drive.
Absolutely. It's also got calendar of our upcoming events, which is where to find out where we're going to be. Where in the world are the Gilberts?
We use it. I never know where I am one day.
It helps me remember what I'm supposed to be doing. And of course, the conversations area, a messaging section where you can communicate, connect with other believers who are interested in these topics that we explore on this program, our other podcasts.
We call it the Fellowship of the King. So
I like
join us in there, part of the body of Christ.
Absolutely. You'll find a link at our website, gilberthouse.org/app or unravelingrevelation.tv/app.
For those wondering where the dogs are, Grace is here in the barn. She's on the other side in Derek's editing area.
Yep.
And Glory is, we hope, asleep in the house.
She ran herself and Grace just about ragged this morning.
Oh, they're so crazy. But it's a great thing. They're both very energetic breeds of dogs or mixes of dogs.
Right.
And so we need a way to siphon off all of that energy, and they do it together.
Absolutely. So that's been a real blessing. And Glory, like Grace, showing a very unique personality. And, they're very curious, very intelligent, very quick learners. And so they will keep us on our toes and help keep us younger as we get older.
Absolutely. And after the break, we will remind you about the coffee we have. We're working on a Glory blend. We'll tell you all about that then.
Yeah. One of the things we wanted to talk about, just to sort of sum up what we've been doing the last few weeks, is with this discussion of the king of the God Gate, Melech Babel, usually translated into English in the Bible as the king of Babylon, but maybe not.
Well, I think we all take for granted, those of us who are starting to dig into the original language and the context of those scriptures, the Babel, the God Gate, or God's Gate,
right,
as in plural, it essentially defines a city. You're a town, you're a village, you're a farming area, but you're only a city if you have a city god. It's assumed that these are local gods, and I think they usually are. But bottom line is, there is an entity named El, capital E-L, that has been a target of the Lord's retribution.
Right. We talked about this over the last couple of weeks, and we've mentioned that El was known by many different names in the ancient world. This was known to the ancients. There are god lists in some of the ancient languages, like the Amorite kingdom of Ugarit, which was destroyed at the end of the Bronze Age, around 1200 BC. Sort of like the clay tablet version of Google Translate. They would list in different languages equivalent gods, so they would know who to pray to in the various languages. El in the Amorite language was also Dagon to some of the other Amorites, who was also Kumarbi to the Hurrians, who was also Enlil to the Akkadians and Babylonians.
You know, I wish we had a copy of your book, the second coming of Saturn, because you discuss all of those names and how they all relate to an entity that is actually described in Isaiah 14.
Right. And we've taken it for granted. Again, this is one of those things that we sort of take for granted, that Isaiah 14 and the parallel chapter, Ezekiel 28, refer to Satan because it describes an entity who is kicked out of Eden, who is thrown down to Sheol, where the Rephaim, the shades, rise up to greet him. And the Rephaim are the spirits of the giants, the spirits of the Nephilim destroyed in the flood.
Yeah, somehow the Vulgate turned it into the carrier of light.
Yeah, Lucifer, which is Halel, is roughly translated as light bringer. But as a scholar, William R. Gallagher wrote in about 30 years ago, he wrote a paper on this and showed how that name, Halel, is actually the West Semitic, which is Hebrew and related languages, transliteration of Elil, which is the Akkadian form of Enlil. So Halel is Elil, is Enlil, is El.
Halel ben Shakar. Shakar is also the name of a deity.
Right, dawn.
Dawning, yes.
In this context, I think it actually may refer to the dawn of creation.
I think that too.
Yeah.
I do. I don't think it's a coincidence that this is an entity that fell pre-flood.
Right, right.
And you and I were talking about this morning. Now, the reason we're discussing El is because there was a verse that you discussed last time.
In Ezekiel 28. And again, we've done a program on this. You can go back into the archives, either in our app or at unravelingrevelation.tv, to find the program called Satan is Not Lucifer. And it's not that Satan is a good guy. We're not defending Satan.
Oh, he's not.
Nor are we defending Lucifer. We're just saying that this other entity, Shemiyaza, who was the chief of the watchers who rebelled, the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6, that he is, in fact, the entity translated by Jerome when he translated the Hebrew into the Vulgate as Lucifer, based on the Latin words for light and bringer. But again, this is Enlil, a separate entity from Satan. And we go into that in the Satan episode.
And you talk about it in your book,
the Second Coming of Saturn goes into a deep dive into the language behind it. We need to remember that the Bible was not written in English. It was written in Hebrew. No.
What?
So the translators have to make choices. When they see Bab El, they have to decide, okay, does it mean Babel? Or does it mean Babylon? And then, as we discussed in a previous episode, the scholar Stephanie Daly pointed out that Babylon was a name that was not always applied to the city where Nebuchadnezzar ruled. It was also applied to Nineveh. It was applied to Eridu.
To Rome at one time?
It was applied to Rome in a figurative way.
Metaphorically, Rome, yes.
So we need to dig into the original languages. So in Ezekiel 28, again, this condemnation of the prince of Tyre, we read a couple of weeks ago, verse 2 of Ezekiel 28, Son of man, say to the prince of Tyre, thus says the Lord Yahweh, because your heart is proud and you have said, I am a god, I sit in the seat of the gods in the heart of the seas. Now, we discussed how that is a reference to the double deep of El's abode. In the Ugaritic texts, it was explained that his location, his tabernacle, was located at the source of the two deeps. But the Hebrew, I overlooked this, and I went back and checked after the episode. In fact, I put a lower third up on that episode just to show,
So if all you do is listen,
you might have missed this. But the phrase, I am a god, the indefinite article a is not in the original Hebrew. So the phrase actually says, I am El.
Oh.
I sit in this confirms the interpretation that we gave to it, the seat of the gods, the source of the two deeps, which was in the ancient world believed to be Mount Hermon, which was the Canaanite Olympus, essentially.
So who's the head guy in Tartarus?
Yeah, the prince, the king over those in the abyss.
The Melech.
The Melech, the king of the god gate or gate of the gods, the king of Babel, in other words, would be this entity, Shemiyaza, who was sent down to Tartarus, according to 2 Peter 2, verse 4, and is currently chained, according to Peter and Jude, until the final judgment, in chains and gloomy darkness.
I mentioned earlier that you and I were having a discussion about this morning, and one of the things that occurred to me, we all take for granted when we see in a verse, for instance, when Adam is told, if you eat of this tree, you will surely die in that day. In that very day, you will surely die. How did Adam know what day meant and what die meant?
It's a good
Day
question.
may
Good
have
questions.
been, he may have thought literally evening and morning, but we see a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. And within those 1,000 years, Adam did die. But he also died spiritually. But because the Lord does not just arbitrarily punish with no rule in front of it. If we do see that the Watchers came down to Mount Hermon, did what they did with human women, and for that sin were cast into Tartarus, the place you were talking about, the heart of the seas. How did they know that would happen? And did they know? I think that they were told, I'm sending you to earth to help the humans. If you do the following things, I guarantee you, as he told Adam, if you do this, this is the consequence. He said, if you accept worship, if you interfere with their after one kind, I don't know how it was set, but I do think the Lord said, if this, then that.
Yeah.
And that was you will be cast into Tartarus, meaning they knew the place existed and they knew what it was.
And they knew the consequences of their actions, but they were somehow tempted into it or lured into it.
Yes, but if indeed you follow that thread, if Tartarus existed and they knew it existed and they feared it, is it possible that the one we call Prisoner Zero is why they knew what it was?
That's a really good point. Prisoner Zero, Leviathan, chaos. Genesis 1 verse 2, where the Spirit of God is hovering over the deep, the Tehom, Tiamat, that's the cognitive version in Samaria, the chaos dragon. That is entirely possible.
Because
that is possible.
When that chaos dragon arises, we see that happening in the book of Revelation.
Revelation 13, yeah.
There are entities on her back, on its back.
Yeah. The seven heads are the seven cities, seven kings.
The Apkallu, the judges of the underworld.
Judges of the underworld, yeah. The Sumerians believed that there were 7 of them, right?
Right. So she comes back with them. But now, we'll leave that hanging for now, and we promise we will get to that later. But for now, back to El, Shemyaza.
Yeah, one other quick thing. I just want to point out that the early church fathers understood what you are describing. Justin Martyr, who wrote in the mid-2nd century, his second apology, which was a letter to the Senate in Rome, defending Christians as not being atheists. I mean, in the eyes of the Romans, because the Christians only worshipped one God and denied the supremacy or the authority of all of the others, they were considered atheists. Yeah, which is odd. But Justin's point was, no, we acknowledge that they exist, but they are not gods in the sense that Yahweh is God. Okay, He is the creator. He created all of them. And Justin wrote in chapter 5 of his second apology, how the angels transgressed. God, when He had made the whole world and subjected things earthly to man, and arranged the heavenly elements for the increase of fruits and rotation of the seasons, and appointed this divine law, for these things also He evidently made for man, committed the care of men and of all things under heaven to angels, whom He appointed over them. But the angels transgressed this appointment and were captivated by love of women and begat children who are those that are called demons.
They were given authority.
Right.
And they abused it.
They abused it. So, and this now applies to the sons of God prior to the flood. Okay? And according to Moses in Deuteronomy 32:8, God did the same thing after the flood when He gave the nations their inheritance. He divided them, numbered them according to the number of the sons of God. So this was according to Justin Martyr, and this, again, he's writing within 70 years of John and the Revelator, understood. And this was the consensus view of early church theologians.
We are not created as little robots. Neither were the elder brothers. Neither were the what we call angels. They're actually called Elohim, according to the late Dr. Michael Heiser. These Elohim also had free will. And in order to have free will, you need to know what your choices are.
Yeah. And be free to choose badly.
Yeah.
And I know this is a conundrum a lot of Christians wrestle with. If God knew that Adam and Eve were going to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge and good and evil, why did he put it there? Why did he give them access to it? Well, why did he send angels to earth knowing that they would commingle with human women?
Well, on a minor version of that, you and I have a puppy who is about, I don't know, what's she, 12 weeks old?
About 13 weeks.
13 weeks
yeah,
old.
by 14 or 15 by the time you watch this.
She's about 3 months old.
Yeah.
And Grace is about 3 years old. And they do things oftentimes that we really prefer they don't do.
Right.
But I wouldn't want an automaton. In order to have obedience constantly, you may as well buy a little robot dog.
Exactly, exactly. That would be the equivalent of basically putting the puppy in a crib from which it could not escape.
Yeah.
And not giving it anything that it could possibly do wrong. I mean, how does that allow it to grow, flourish, and choose to love you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what's so wonderful, is when the puppy or the dog, they choose to love you. They come up and they start kissing your hands or licking your she wanted to lick my makeup off. I don't wear makeup generally, and so the few times I put it on, the dogs realize
very
there's
interested.
Something going on. What is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't want little robots, and neither did the Lord.
Neither did the Lord. He wanted a family, and when you've got a family and you have children, you understand that at some point they're going to misbehave, and the Lord has clearly understood that when He created us and when He created our elder brothers, the angels. He created us all with free will, and many of us have chosen badly.
What do you say we take a break, and then when we come back, we will talk coffee, but we'll also continue with this discussion of El and who he is and why it's such a big deal.
And archaeological confirmation from the summit of Mount Hermon, straight ahead on Unraveling Revelation. It's a new month, and we have a new special at the Gilbert House online store.
We have a crazy, crazy deal on all of our DVDs. They are, regardless of the retail price, they are 75% off.
We keep hearing from the kids these days that everything is going to streaming video, that DVDs are old school.
Oh, not for us.
No, we are old school. And besides, we don't trust the internet will always be there. So take advantage of this special offer. Everything from our travel-ogumentaries. Basically follow us as we go through the Holy Land and show you the important sites at ground zero on this supernatural war, plus video teachings, presentations, and much, much more.
You know, with 75% off savings on all the DVDs, as many as you want to get, you've got the money that you saved to go out and buy a DVD player.
That's it. Take advantage of it now, online only at the Gilbert House store, gilberthouse.org/store. And thank you for your prayers and support. Welcome back to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we want to remind you that we have coffee.
We run on coffie here at Gilbert House.
We do.
Yep, that was one of the things we bonded over early in our marriage.
Oh my gosh.
A love of good coffee. We don't have many, what you call luxuries here.
No.
But good really coffee is one.
We live pretty basic lives, but we do like really good tasting coffee. I only have 1 cup of coffee a day, but I want it to be a really strong cup of coffee that's very flavorful. And the beans that are roasted by our good friend Nick Fisher, with Kevlar Joe, he has made special blends for us, and he roasts them individually, makes sure it's hand done, and you get the best beans ever. Yeah,
wonderful blends. We've got two inspired by our dogs. We've got the Snarling Dachshund, which is a tribute to our late Dachshund, Sam T. Dachshund. It's a very smooth, medium roast Sumatran bean. Grace inspired cookies and cream.
That's what I have here, the Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace. The Bunker Buster, Derek's Bunker Buster, inspired by my weekly podcast, A View from the Bunker.
That's honestly the one that I go to because it's a nice punch coffee.
The Colombian Dark Roast, but we do have a blend inspired by Glory coming soon. It will be called Morning Glory, and we're working with Nick to develop a blend for her as well. So we're
has a nice sweet taste that might bite you. You never know.
But it's a puppy teeth, so it won't hurt too badly.
Exactly.
You can find them all at gilberthouse.org/store. That'll take you right to the Kevlar Joe's website, gilberthouse.org/store.
While you're at the store, by the way, by the end of of March, pretty soon, the whole DVD sale is going to go away. But we also want to remind you, by the end of March, Derek and I have to decide whether or not we are indeed getting to go to Israel in May, because we have to have the tour put together. So March 31st will be your last day to sign up.
Right. This is the Solidarity Mission to Israel. The dates proposed, May 6th through 13th. This is an opportunity to do a couple of things. See with your own eyes what took place October 7th. Going to secure areas. We will go to Tel Aviv Hostage Square. We'll see an exhibition based on the Nova Music Festival. While we're there, we will see the Ground Zero sites in Jerusalem that are still safe and secure. The Temple Mount, the Mount of Olives, and so forth. We'll visit the Israel Museum, which has got some great archaeological site, plus a very powerful memorial of the Holocaust.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to miss that.
You really don't.
So let us know. Well, let us know. Let Lipkin Tours know by going to the website, gilberthouse.org/travel. There's a link there that will take you to the Lipkin Tours website, gilberthouse.org/travel. But don't delay, because we're trying to get to 20 to 30 people at most. And we want to. This will also be a blessing to our friends at Lipkin Tours, because the economy of Israel has really taken a shock because of this war.
They need to know because of the hotel reservations.
Right,
so
right.
March 31st is the last day. El, E-L.
El, the father god of the Canaanites, was, again, in the ancient world, it was understood that he was equivalent to Saturn, Kronos, the Phoenician god Baal Haman, but going back further in history to Ashur of the Assyrians, Enlil or Elil of the Akkadians and Babylonians, even going back very distant history, the Hurrian god Kumarbi. On the summit of Mount Hermon, as you discovered while researching Sir Charles Warren for the Red Wing saga.
I wanted to bring that character. It's a historical person, Sir Charles Warren. He was with the Army in the 1860s, and he was charged with surveying the area that we call the Levant. He was in Egypt, and then he moved over to the Levant. He measured Mount Hermon. He described Mount Hermon. He took a team up there, and he has these beautiful drawings. But while he was there, he discovered a temple, an ancient wall that was going counterclockwise, and a depression at the top that appears to be for a libation offering. And he discovered a stone.
Yeah. Locals knew the temple was there. It was called Qasr Antar, and Josiah Porter, Presbyterian minister, had written about that some 10 years earlier. But nobody for 2,000 years had seen that inscription, which we'll show you here on the screen. This is about 4 feet high, about 18 inches wide. It was about 12 inches thick.
It was much thicker. It was too heavy to bring down the mountain.
Right. So
it's a very treacherous climb.
9,000 feet, and you can only get there for a few months out of the year because of the snow near the summit. Warren shaved it down to about 4 inches thick, which cut the weight down from about 6,000 pounds to 2,000. It still broke on the way down. You can see the crack in it, but it wasn't unboxed according to the official histories in 1903. Now, the Red Wing saga.
Red Wing history, it's unboxed much earlier because I bring that stone in. I bring Sir Charles Warren in because he was the commissioner of the Metropolitan Police during the Jack the Ripper murders.
Right.
And I begin in 1888 during those murders.
Right, but according to history as it's recorded, according to the British Museum, a scholar by the name of Charles Claremont Ganneau unboxed it in 1903 and translated the inscription, which is in archaic Greek, as by the order of the God most great and holy, those who take an oath. Hence, Charles W.E. Nicholsburg, just within the last 20 years or so, is a scholar of Enochian literature, translated it this way: according to the command of the greatest and holy God, those who take an oath proceed from here. The British Museum translation, which dated from 1903, this was what was on the base on which they displayed the stone. It's not on display now, by the way.
Oh, no. But you can still find it on their website.
Yeah. Hence, by order of the God, those who do not take the oath. Now, again, those are roughly equivalent. The consensus that this relates to the incident recorded in the book of First Enoch.
Oath that they took, the watchers saying, okay, we're not going to rat on each other, right?
Right.
Because we know what we're about to do is a sin.
Shemi Yaza was afraid he would, according to account in First Enoch, that he would take the fall for this sin. So he made them all swear by mutual oaths that they would do this together. Well, our good friend Doug Hamp, Dr. Doug Hamp.
We love Doug.
Came up with the first new information from this stone in more than 100 years. He noticed that on the inscription, on the images of the stone, there are two words that were just skipped by the previous translators because apparently they didn't know what to make of them. One is words 5 and 6, Bo, B-O, and Batiu, B-A-T-I-O-U. And so they were ignored by the British Museum. Nicolsburg modified them, Bo to a Greek word meaning and.
What he wanted.
well, he was trying to figure out what exactly it meant, because Bo and Batio don't make sense unless you're approaching this with the worldview of the Divine Council.
Right.
So Doug looked at Bo and proposes reading Bo as the Greek prefix that means bull, ox, or male cattle.
Right.
And Batio, this was really ingenious. Bod or Bat, B-A-D or B-A-T, in the Sumerian logogram, that's the picturesque style of writing the Sumerians used, was the symbol for the chief god Enlil or Dagon, who we know from other writings were equivalent to El. And the bull aspect of this is that the chief epithet or nickname of El was Bull El.
Yes.
So Doug equates Enlil with Satan. I think they are two separate entities. And so I modified Doug's translation a little bit. I think based on Doug Hamp's work, credit where it's due, I think this is brilliant work that he's done.
Absolutely.
His translation, I think, reads this: according to the command of the great Bull El, those swearing an oath in this place go forth. And again, I think that's more evidence that this entity, El, Dagon, Enlil, Elil, is Shemiyaza. And he is the entity who God considered so dangerous that he and his colleagues are locked up in the bottomless pit, and Satan is still wandering the earth.
You know, there may be some of you who are sitting there saying, hold on, there are a lot of various names. In the next program, we'll talk about why there are various names for these entities. Sometimes it's because they're lying about their abilities. Sometimes it's an appendage. You know, this is what they do, therefore they have a slightly different name. But also, sometimes it's to essentially throw it's
sand in the eyes?
Well, yeah, it's an insult.
Oh, okay.
I thought, how do I put this? It's basically an insult. So
a pejorative.
A pejorative, thank you. All those words. Yes, so next program, we're going to talk about some of those names. We're not going to dissect everything and give you a chart, but we'll tell you why. There are a lot of names.
And again, how this all relates back to Babylon the Great, or Mystery Babylon of the end times. Again, if we look at Babylon and assume it's a reference to Nebuchadnezzar's city, I think we may be missing some of this. We think this is, in many of these prophetic verses, a condemnation or a prophecy, the ultimate destruction of this enemy from Genesis 6.
Yes.
Thank you for watching. This is Unraveling Revelation.
Unraveling Revelation is a viewer-supported outreach of Gilbert House Ministries. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us through our websites or drop us a line at P.O. Box 78, Crane, Missouri 65633.